Imagine a champion fighter undefeated in the ring who suddenly finds himself battling forces far more sinister than any opponent. What if the very wounds he carries hold a secret power, destined to fight an ancient evil that stole his family? Years ago, in South Korea, a young boy named Young-ho lived with his father, Sergeant Park. He had tragically lost his mother at a very young age. Even though life was not easy, his father did everything he could to take care of him alone. Sergeant Park, a dedicated highway patrol officer, would leave each night for his dangerous job, leaving Young-ho to anxiously await his safe return. One night during work, Sergeant Park stopped a suspicious car on the road and asked the driver to roll down the window. But the moment he peered inside, a strange feeling washed over him. Two young people sat inside, appearing completely lost, almost as if under some unsettling control. The driver wore a creepy, crow-shaped ring, intensifying the suspicious atmosphere. Park asked the driver to take a breath test, but instead of complying, the young man suddenly floored the accelerator and sped off. Sergeant Park quickly grabbed the car door, attempting to stop their escape, but the situation rapidly turned dangerous. The driver attacked him, violently throwing him onto the road and leaving him severely injured. Sergeant Park was rushed to the hospital, where doctors reported his condition was critical. This news shattered Young-ho's heart. Having already lost his mother, he was now terrified of losing his father as well. Feeling helpless and scared, Young-ho ran to a nearby church. With tears streaming down his face, he prayed to God for the first time, desperately begging for his father's survival. In that emotional moment, a young priest quietly sat beside him and joined him in prayer. The priest gently assured Young-ho that faith could accomplish incredible things, and that nothing was impossible if he truly believed. Young clung to those words, believing with all his heart. Later, he returned home and waited nervously with his grandmother for updates from the hospital. After hours of stress and sadness, the little boy finally fell asleep. But in his dream, something profound occurred. His father appeared before him, calm and peaceful. Sergeant Park gently advised his son to be a good person, behave well, and always help those in need. At first, Young-ho didn't understand what his father was trying to convey. Before leaving, Park gently said goodbye to his son and grasped Young-ho's right hand. Suddenly, a bright, glowing energy emanated from his father's hand, making the moment feel strange and mysterious. Moments later, Young-ho suddenly awoke in the middle of the night, only for the nightmare to become a devastating reality. He received the heartbreaking news that his father had succumbed to his injuries and passed. Away, the boy was utterly shattered, having now lost both of his parents. The next morning, a funeral was held for Sergeant Park. Family members and friends gathered to say their final goodbyes. Even the young priest from the church came to comfort the family and offer his condolences. But Young-ho was consumed by pain, sadness, and anger. Deep inside, he felt betrayed. He remembered praying with all his heart for his father to survive, but nothing had changed. In a moment of raw anger, Young-ho grabbed a crucifix and hurled it at the priest, shouting that God had never listened to his prayers. From that day on, the young boy completely lost faith and stopped believing. Years later, Young-ho grew up and became a completely different person. Instead of believing in faith, he focused solely on strength. He trained hard and built a career as an MMA fighter. Over time, he became one of the best fighters in the sport, earning the title of undefeated middleweight champion. One day, Young-ho traveled to the United States for an important match against an American fighter named John White, who was determined to claim his championship belt. As soon as the referee started the fight, John quickly threw a powerful kick toward Young-ho, but the champion reacted instantly, dodging the attack effortlessly. Before John could recover, Young-ho fired back with a single powerful punch. The hit was so powerful that John immediately fell to the ground, completely knocked out. The crowd erupted, thinking the fight was over, but suddenly something strange occurred. Young-ho became overwhelmed with uncontrollable anger. Instead of stopping, he continued attacking John relentlessly in pure rage. Things quickly spiraled out of control, but thankfully, the referee rushed in and stopped the fight before serious damage could be done. In the end, Young-ho won another match and maintained his undefeated record. After winning another fight, Young-ho boarded a plane and headed back to Seoul. During the flight, he fell asleep, but once again, he saw his late father in a strange dream. This time, they stood inside a creepy mausoleum. The place felt cold and silent. Sergeant Park quietly told his son to follow him to the end of a long hallway. When Young-ho reached the end, he saw an altar with a crucifix placed on it. But even after all these years, Young Ho was still angry at God for taking his father away. Filled with resentment, he reached for the crucifix, intending to throw it away, but suddenly something impossible occurred. The cross stuck tightly to his hand and refused to come off. Moments later, a burning flame suddenly appeared on his arm, causing terrible pain. Terrified, Young Ho suddenly awoke on the plane, breathing heavily. At first, he thought it was only a nightmare, but then he noticed something shocking. His hand was actually bleeding. That's when he realized the dream had somehow felt real. Even though he was confused and scared, Young Ho wrapped his injured hand in a bandage and returned to his apartment to get some rest. But late at night, something terrifying occurred. While sleeping, a dark shadow-like figure appeared in his room. The strange creature slowly moved closer and began tormenting him. Young Ho tried to move, but he couldn't even open his eyes or control his body. He felt completely trapped. Then suddenly, the creature noticed the strange wound on Young Ho's hand. For some reason, it became afraid and quickly disappeared into the darkness. Young Ho finally woke up in a panic, only to see that his hand was bleeding again. Completely confused, he rushed to a hospital. After several medical tests, the doctors told him something strange. There was nothing physically wrong with him. Since they couldn't find any medical reason for the injury, they suggested he visit another hospital for more answers. Young Ho had no idea what was happening to him. But then his driver told him a strange story about his niece Hong Jin. When Hong Jin was just 15 years old, she suddenly stopped being able to sleep. Even worse, blood began streaming from her eyes. One day, she completely lost her eyesight. Desperate to help her daughter, Hong Jin's mother took her to a shaman. This discovered that the girl possessed a powerful supernatural ability and trained her to control it. Sadly, Hong Jin never regained her eyesight, but in exchange she gained something unusual. Even though she was blind, she became able to perceive supernatural spirits and strange energies. Since then, she has dedicated her life to helping people with her special gift. Even though Young Ho didn't believe in ghosts or supernatural phenomena, he was desperate for answers, so he asked to meet Hong Jin. Soon, he traveled to a quiet sanctuary far from the bustling city. There, he finally met the young woman and showed her the strange wound on his hand, asking its meaning. Using her supernatural vision, Hong Jin sensed a bright energy emanating from Young Ho's hand. After checking carefully, she told him that if he wanted answers, he should go to a church on the other side of Seoul. Although he still found everything hard to believe, Young Ho decided to go. But when he arrived at the church, something strange happened again. A large flock of crows suddenly blocked the entrance, almost as if trying to prevent him from entering. Finding this eerie, Young Ho decided to enter from the back instead. At that exact moment inside the church, two priests, Father An and Father Choi, were desperately trying to save a young man who appeared to be possessed by an evil spirit. The priests were performing an exorcism, hoping to free him, but suddenly the possessed man broke free from his chair and violently attacked Father An. Father Choi quickly jumped in to help and pulled the man away, but things only got worse. The possessed man suddenly spat thick black slime from his mouth, terrifying Father Choi so badly that he fled in fear. Now completely out of control, the possessed man charged toward Father An, ready to kill him. But right before things turned deadly, Young Ho stepped in. Using his fighting skills, he threw the man away and tried to hold him down. But the moment Young Ho grabbed him with his injured hand, something unbelievable happened. A bright white flame suddenly burst out and began burning the possessed man's head. Seeing this chance, Father An quickly poured holy water on the man. Instead of stopping the fire, the holy water made it even stronger, burning away the evil spirit inside him. Finally, the young man collapsed to the floor, completely free from possession. Young Ho stood there in shock. He realized that the strange flame came from the wound on his own hand. After looking closely, Father An explained something unbelievable. He explained that the wound was called a stigmata, a special mark similar to the wounds Jesus had during the crucifixion. According to the priest, people with this mark could sometimes receive special powers like healing people or fighting evil spirits. Of course, Young Ho refused to believe any of it, but at the same time he wanted answers, so he invited Father An to his apartment. Once there, Father An said a prayer to protect the home from evil spirits. While looking around, he noticed an old photo of Young Ho with his father. Suddenly, Father An realized something shocking. Young Ho was actually the same little boy he had prayed with years ago before Sergeant Park died. But instead of saying anything, the priest quietly kept it a secret. Before leaving, Father On gave Young Ho a necklace with a cross and told him to keep it close for protection. Later that night, Father On contacted the Vatican with an urgent warning. He reported that he had finally found proof that a dangerous bishop of darkness was hiding in Seoul. This mysterious man served evil spirits and secretly chose innocent people to become possessed for dark purposes. But what Father On didn't know was this evil man was actually Ji Shin, the owner of a nightclub called Babylon. Behind his normal public image, Ji Shin hid a terrifying secret. He was also the same person responsible for Sergeant Park's death years ago. That same night, Ji Shin entered a secret room hidden inside his nightclub. Deep underground, there was a dark altar built to worship an evil being called the Sacred Serpent. In exchange for immortality and eternal youth, Ji Shin offered human souls to this dark power, secretly destroying lives across Seoul. Meanwhile, Father On knew he couldn't stop someone this dangerous alone. He visited other priests, hoping to find help for future exorcisms, but most of them were too scared and refused to get involved. Feeling hopeless, Father On returned home, but when he arrived, he saw someone waiting outside, and to his surprise it was Young Ho. The fighter admitted that he had found the priest's address through a church secretary because he still needed help. Even after the protection prayer at his apartment, strange things hadn't stopped happening. He still couldn't sleep, and the strange mark on his hand kept getting worse. Seeing how serious the situation was, Father On gave Young Ho a special rosary blessed by the Pope himself. He explained that it could protect him from evil spirits. The priest also told him something important. The strongest weapon against evil was faith. But Young Ho quickly shook his head. He admitted that he had stopped believing in God the day his father died. After praying so hard and still losing him, he simply couldn't believe anymore. Hearing this, Father On opened up about his own painful past. He explained that he too had lost his faith once. Years ago, his mentor, the man who taught him everything about exorcisms, had passed away. After losing someone so important, Father On became angry and confused as well. But over time, he slowly understood something profound. Sometimes God's plans were hard to understand at first. Even when life felt unfair, faith could eventually help people find answers. Since then, Father On has dedicated his life to helping others and continuing the work his mentor started. Still, he quietly admitted that he didn't know how much longer he could keep fighting these dark forces alone. After hearing this honest story, Young Ho began respecting the priest even more. He even offered to drive him wherever he needed to go. During the ride, Young Ho remembered the dangerous exorcism at the church. He pointed out how Father On had almost been killed by the possessed man and said it was too risky for him to keep doing this alone. So Young Ho offered to help, but Father On immediately refused. He didn't want Young Ho getting dragged into something so dangerous. Soon, the priest asked Young Ho to stop near an apartment building because he had received another emergency call about a possible possession. Before getting out, Father On thanked him for the ride and headed inside, but suddenly Young Ho froze. For a quick moment, when he looked at Father On, he felt like he saw his own father standing there, worried something bad might happen to the priest. Young Ho changed his mind and decided to follow him. Before entering, he hid the strange mark on his hand under a glove. Seeing that Young Ho refused to leave, Father On finally accepted his help. Together, they entered the apartment of a frightened young mother, whose face was covered with painful injuries, as if someone had attacked her badly. The woman nervously pointed upstairs and said that her daughter, Soo Jin, had been possessed by an evil spirit. The two slowly headed toward the girl's room. Before opening the door, Father On carefully drew a cross on the entrance using a special pencil made from a sacred olive tree. He explained that this would stop the evil spirit from escaping. Then they finally entered. Inside, they found Soo Jin sitting calmly in her room. She looked completely normal and seemed confused by their sudden arrival. She asked what was happening. At first, Father On believed she was pretending to act innocent. He raised a crucifix in front of her face, expecting a reaction. But to his surprise, nothing happened. Soanja calmly placed her hands on the cross, completely unaffected. Then the girl explained that her mother had severe depression and likely caused the injuries to herself. Still suspicious, Father On tried another test. He pressed another cross against her face, expecting some kind of reaction. Again, nothing happened. Now confused, Father Ons stepped outside the room with Young Ho and quietly said something important. He believed the evil spirit might still be hiding deep inside her body. To make sure, he suddenly rushed back into the room. With Young Ho helping him, Father On forced holy water down Sujin's throat, and instantly, something horrifying happened. The holy water worked. Sujin suddenly started coughing and vomiting blood. Her face transformed into something terrifying, revealing the evil spirit hiding inside her. The possessed girl violently attacked Father On and threw him against the wall. Seeing this, Young-ho jumped in to help and tried holding her down on the bed, but suddenly, Sujin started floating in the air and threw Young-ho straight toward the ceiling with supernatural force. Then something even worse happened. The possessed spirit stared directly at Young-ho with glowing red eyes and uttered something terrifying. It revealed that it was the one responsible for killing his father. Those words instantly filled Young-ho with uncontrollable rage. Blinded by anger, he rushed at Sujin and began attacking her without thinking. Father On quickly grabbed him and tried pulling him back, struggling to stop him. Meanwhile, the evil spirit kept whispering to Young-ho, trying to push him deeper into anger and hatred. For a moment, it looked like Young-ho was losing control, but somehow he managed to calm himself down. Then he removed his glove. Using the strange mark on his hand, he grabbed Sujin's face. Immediately, bright flames began burning across her head as the evil spirit screamed in pain. Seeing the chance, Father On quickly poured holy water over her. This time, the evil spirit couldn't survive. After one final scream, it was completely forced out of Sujin's body. The exorcism finally worked. Later, after Sujin recovered, Father On gently asked if she had met anyone strange recently. He believed she might have crossed paths with the mysterious Bishop of Darkness, the same evil man secretly placing spirits inside innocent people. But before Sujin could answer, something horrifying happened. Suddenly, blood started flowing from her eyes, and she clutched her throat in pain. Far away, inside his dark secret room, Ji-shin began another terrifying ritual at the altar of the sacred serpent. This time, he used a creepy voodoo doll connected to Sujin and began attacking her through dark magic. Back at the apartment, Sujin suddenly began suffering badly. She screamed in pain as something invisible attacked her body. Seeing what was happening, Father On quickly understood that someone was using dark power against her from afar. Without wasting time, he began praying with all his strength to block the evil magic, and suddenly something incredible happened. Because of Father On's strong faith, Ji-shin's crow-shaped ring suddenly began burning. At the same time, the voodoo doll caught fire with bright white flames. The dark connection between Ji-shin and Sujin was finally broken. After surviving the terrifying attack, Father On told Sujin to rest for the night and recover. Later, he returned home with Young-ho. After everything they had gone through, the two decided to relax a little. While eating dinner together, they started talking more personally. Curious, Father On asked Young-ho an important question. Why was he helping him? Young-ho quietly opened up and told the priest something emotional. He explained that before his father died, Sergeant Park appeared in his dreams and told him to always help people in need. Because of that, even though Young-ho still struggled to believe in God or anything supernatural, he felt like helping Father On was the only way to honor his father's final wish. As the two continued talking, Ji-shin was already preparing another evil plan. Inside his hidden altar room, he sacrificed a crow and asked the sacred serpent to change his appearance. Moments later, something terrifying happened. Ji-shin transformed himself to look exactly like Father Choi. Using this fake appearance, he secretly went to a Catholic orphanage. There, he noticed a young boy named Ho-seok getting bullied and beaten up by other kids. After the fight ended, Ji-shin approached the lonely boy and pretended to be kind. He told Ho-seok that he could help him become stronger so nobody would ever hurt him again. Feeling weak and helpless, the boy agreed. But sadly, this turned into a terrible mistake. Ji-shin secretly performed a dark ritual and sent several evil spirits directly into Ho-seok's body. Meanwhile, Ji-shin visited Father On's apartment. Outside, he spotted Young-ho heading toward the parking lot to get his motorcycle. Pretending to be Father Choi, Ji-shin called out to him. He lied and told Young-ho that he used to work with Father On. Then he said something dangerous. He warned Young-ho not to trust the priest because Father On was secretly an evil person. Young-ho didn't fully believe him. Still, the strange warning left doubt in his mind. The next morning, Father On received an emergency call from the orphanage. One of the students had suddenly become possessed. Knowing he might need help, he quickly called Young-ho. But, because of the doubt Ji-shin had planted in his mind, Young-ho ignored the call. Not long after, Young-ho received another phone call. This time, his manager offered him a huge fight in the United States that could earn him millions of dollars. At first, everything sounded exciting, but deep down, Young Ho suddenly felt like something terrible was about to happen. Instead of accepting the offer, he decided to call Father On back. To his surprise, one of the nuns at the orphanage answered the phone and explained the terrifying situation. The moment Young Ho heard this, he rushed to help. He quickly jumped into his vehicle and sped toward the orphanage. And he needed to hurry because inside, Father On was already exhausted. Ho Seok, now fully possessed, violently attacked the priest and punched him repeatedly in the face. Trying to save him, one brave nun grabbed a crucifix and attempted to force the evil spirit out, but she wasn't strong enough. The possessed boy suddenly jumped at her and grabbed her by the throat. Everything seconds away from disaster. Then suddenly, Young Ho arrived just in time. Without wasting a second, he threw the possessed boy away from the nun and saved her. But once again, Young Ho had no choice but to use the strange power in his hand. He removed his glove and placed the stigmata on Ho Seok's face. Immediately, bright white flames burst across the boy's skin. Then Young Ho grabbed Father On's holy water and poured it over him. The sacred flames grew stronger and began burning away the evil spirits hiding inside the boy. Finally, the exorcism worked. Ho Seok was freed from possession and Father On and the nun were safe. After calming down, they gently asked the boy what had happened. But Ho Seok only remembered seeing a man dressed like a priest coming toward him. The moment Father On heard this, he became suspicious. He believed this mysterious fake priest could finally be the Bishop of Darkness he'd been searching for. For now, they let the boy rest. But as Young Ho and Father On walked out of the room, something heartwarming happened. The children at the orphanage suddenly gathered around Young Ho and hugged him tightly to thank him for saving their friend. For the first time in a long while, Young Ho felt something different. He felt happy. Helping people made him feel closer to fulfilling his father's final wish. On the way back, Young Ho apologized to Father Austin for not answering his call earlier, but the priest simply smiled. He said he was happy because Young Ho was slowly becoming someone chosen to help others, almost like a messenger of God. Of course, Young So still found that hard to believe. Even now, he wasn't sure if he believed in God at all. But Father On felt certain that the young fighter was sent for a reason. Meanwhile, even after losing again, Ji Shin had no plans to stop. Back at his dark altar, he began another terrifying ritual to serve the sacred serpent. This time, he used his dark power to control one of the orphanage's guard dogs. The animal suddenly became possessed, and Ji Shin secretly freed it from its chain. Later that night, Hosius was sleeping peacefully in his room at the orphanage. Then suddenly, he heard someone softly calling his name. Confused, the boy got out of bed to check who it was. But the moment he stepped outside, the possessed dog attacked him without warning. The poor boy had no chance to escape. After killing Ho Seok, Ji Shin coldly offered the boy's soul to the sacred serpent. As a reward, the dark creature gave Ji Shin one of its poisonous fangs, a deadly weapon filled with powerful venom. Not long after, Father On received a heartbreaking phone call from the orphanage. One of the nurses sadly told him that a terrible tragedy had happened. Father On and Young Ho rushed straight to the morgue. There, they found Ho Seok's lifeless body lying inside with deep bite marks on his neck. The sight completely shocked them. Heartbroken, Father On quietly said a prayer for the boy. But while standing nearby, Young Ho noticed a strange man watching from the other side of the room. Something felt wrong. Young Ho suddenly suspected this could be the Bishop of Darkness. Without thinking twice, he ran after the mysterious man, leaving Father On alone in the morgue. But the moment Young Ho left, something horrifying happened. The body bag holding Ho Seok suddenly started moving. Confused and emotional, Father On slowly opened it, and to his shock, Ho Seok sat up and asked for help. The priest felt overwhelmed with guilt for not protecting the boy, thinking the child had somehow survived. Father On hugged him tightly, but sadly it was all fake. It was only an illusion created by Ji Shin. Suddenly, Ji Shin appeared and attacked Father On, using the poisonous fang from the sacred serpent. Nearby, Young Ho heard the priest screaming and immediately rushed back. When he entered the room, he finally came face to face with Ji Shin, the real Bishop of Darkness. Ji Shin held Father On hostage and made an offer. He said he would spare the priest's life if Young Ho gave up the supernatural power in his hand. Without hesitation, Young Ho agreed. But Father On refused to let Young Ho sacrifice himself. Instead, he chose to protect him. In a shocking moment, Father On stabbed himself in the face with the poisoned fang. Within seconds, the deadly poison started spreading through his body. Terrified, Young-ho quickly carried the priest away to save him. They rushed to Father Choi's house. The moment Father Choi saw Father On's condition, he laid him down on a bed and began praying, desperately trying to stop the curse. Watching all this broke Young-ho's heart once again. Someone he deeply cared about was dying in front of him, just like his parents. Feeling hopeless, Young-ho walked into the chapel and made one final prayer. Standing before the image of Jesus on the cross, he begged God to save Father On. This time he truly meant it. He asked with all his heart, but nothing happened. No answer, no miracle. Once again, Young-ho felt abandoned. Filled with frustration and pain, he decided that if God wouldn't help, then he would save Father On himself. Before Young-ho left, Father Choi gave him something important. A special cassock blessed by the Vatican. He explained that it would work like armor against evil forces. Young-ho quietly put it underneath his clothes. Then, without wasting another second, he jumped on his motorcycle and sped away. His destination, Sujin's house. When he arrived, he asked her one important question. Could he find Ji Shin? Using her knowledge, Sujin showed him a card for the Babylon nightclub. Now Young-ho finally knew where the Dark Bishop was hiding. Without hesitation, he raced toward the nightclub. But the moment he reached the entrance, trouble started. Ji Shin's guards blocked his path. And these were no normal guards. Every single one of them had been possessed by evil spirits. They attacked Young-ho all at once. But this is where the fighter showed why he was a champion. A brutal fight broke out. Young-ho blocked punches, dodged attacks, and landed powerful kicks and fast combinations, fighting several enemies simultaneously. Still, even with all his skill, the numbers became overwhelming. The possessed guards slowly started overwhelming him. Realizing he needed a new plan, Young-ho backed away for a moment. Then he did something smart. He removed the clothes covering the Vatican-blessed armor underneath. After that, he poured holy water onto the stigmata wound in his hand. Now the real fight began this time. Whenever Young-ho punched a guard using his blessed hand, bright holy flames exploded across their faces. One by one, the evil spirits burned away. Soon, only one possessed guard remained. The final fight became intense, with both sides throwing heavy punches and kicks. But in the end, Young-ho proved stronger. He defeated the last enemy and burned away the spirit controlling him. Now there was only one person left, Ji Shin. Deep inside his hidden underground room, Ji Shin desperately prayed to the sacred serpent for more power. But this time, the evil creature asked for a much bigger sacrifice. The serpent ordered Ji Shin to stab his own heart using the poisonous fang. Without hesitation, Ji Shin obeyed. The moment he did, he collapsed and fell into the dark well in front of the altar. For a few terrifying seconds, everything became silent. Then suddenly, Ji Shin rose back up. But he was no longer human. He had transformed into a terrifying half-human, half-snake monster. His body looked twisted and horrifying, filled with dark power. Now stronger than ever, Ji Shin challenged Young-ho to one final fight. Young-ho quickly attacked using the holy power from the stigmata in his hand, trying to burn the monster with sacred flames, but to his shock, nothing happened. For the first time, his power didn't work. Ji Shin easily blocked the attack and violently threw Young-ho against a wall. The fighter couldn't believe it. He had never faced anything this powerful before. Still, Young-ho refused to give up. He slowly stood back up, ready to fight again. But Ji Shin suddenly launched a surprise attack. The monster bit deep into Young-ho's shoulder and threw him to the ground. The hit was so strong that Young-ho lost consciousness. Then something strange happened. Young-ho suddenly woke up in a quiet, empty place filled with light, and from a glowing portal someone appeared. It was his father, Sergeant Park. Young-ho became emotional immediately. After all these years, he finally got to see his father again. Without hesitation, he ran toward him and hugged him tightly. For a moment, Young-ho wished he could stay there forever beside him, but Park gently told his son something important. He said it wasn't Young-ho's time yet. His mission wasn't over. There were still people who needed his help. Then, holding Young-ho's hand, Sergeant Park gave him strength one last time. Suddenly, a much stronger energy awakened inside Young-ho's palm. Moments later, Young-ho opened his eyes and returned to the real world. This time, the stigmata in his hand shone brighter than ever before. A massive white flame burst from his palm. Now stronger than before, Young-ho stood up and challenged Ji Shin to a final battle, and this time the fight felt even. The two enemies clashed in an intense battle. Ji Shin attacked wildly using his sharp claws, trying to tear Young-ho apart, but Young-ho fought back with flaming punches powered by holy energy. The battle became brutal. Punch after punch, attack after attack, neither side wanted to lose. Finally, Ji Shin started getting weaker. Seeing his chance, Young Ho gathered every bit of power into his hand. With one final punch, he slammed Ji Shin to the ground. The fight was finally over, but Young Ho still had one more thing to do. He quickly used his holy flames to destroy the poisonous fangs. The moment the fangs melted, Father On was finally freed from the deadly curse, and his life was saved. Just as Young Ho prepared to leave, something terrifying appeared. The sacred serpent finally revealed its true form. The giant creature was covered in countless human arms and looked more horrifying than anything Young Ho had faced before. But strangely, it didn't attack him. Instead, the monster grabbed Ji Shin's body and dragged him back into the well as punishment for failing. At last, the nightmare was over. After the difficult battle, Young Ho returned to Father Choi's house, and to his surprise, Father On was completely healed. Days later, Father Choi was quietly sitting near a lake when he received a letter from Father On. In the letter, Father On revealed that he and Young Ho were now in the Vatican, and surprisingly, Young Ho had agreed to train as an exorcist. The same man who once stopped believing in God was now preparing to fight evil spirits and help people in need. Father On also left behind his cross necklace for Father Choi. He said evil spirits would return someday, and everyone must be ready for whatever came next. And with that, the story came to an end.